Commerce Resources began in 1999, and the management of Commerce Resources has, at that time, had a plan to always try to be ahead of the market to some extent. The management's experience had been in mineral exploration, and in terms of what is of value, you always want to have an idea as well as where the market is going. So in 1999, this thing called, the .com was certainly bubbling up, let's say. And so the management of Commerce Resources, David Hodge, Jody DeRouge, they took a look at that and said, what metals, what minerals could be impacted significantly by a significant increase in technology, a significant increase in electronic products, a significant increase in this thing called the .com. And one of the minerals and metals they were looking at was tantalum. Now, this is more like a puzzle, let's say, because all of the puzzle pieces are on the table, and all you really have to do is put them together. It's not a mystery, it's a puzzle. Now, in terms of that, they took a look at tantalum, and they realized that there was only, 4 or 5 tantalum producers in the Western world. And in actual fact, it was one main one out of Australia that had already been in operation for 15, 16 years, and that was the former Sons of Gwalia. Now, in terms of that, in mining realities, mineral deposits just do not go on forever. As much as the miners would love them to, it is not comparable. Mining deposits are not comparable to, salmon in the sea, or cod in the Atlantic. If you stop fishing the cod in the Atlantic, or you stop fishing salmon, on the Pacific for a couple of seasons, they will come back. Mining deposits are different. You mine them out, they're gone.
Yeah.
So Jody and Dave, the management of Commerce Resources, took a look at the tantalum exploration space and realized there was really no one in tantalum exploration at that time. And there was only this half dozen of tantalum explorers, some of the tantalum miners, and some of them who had been mining their deposits for over a decade, including the one in Canada, which was called the Tantalum Mining Company of Canada, which had been in operation since 1969. So you've got the potential of a shortage coming. Let's put it that way.
And,
so
this was back in the 90s still?
1999, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Jody, our director and our chief geologist, took a look at a bunch of different claims, and what really captivated him was the Blue River claims, the Blue River deposit. And Jody had basically inherited all of this data from his mentor who had passed away. And Jody went through all of these different geological data and came up with the Blue River Project as being of the greatest interest. So in 1999, we had a little bit of capital, and so we went in by helicopter and staked it by hand. Now, just to let you know, Blue River is one of the places of the greatest snowfall on the planet, and it happens to be where there's an international heli-skiing lodge run by a guy named Mike Wigley, who also is a shareholder. But at any rate, going in midwinter by helicopter to stake the property by hand was a bit of a chore. And after we had done it, we had found out that there were similar like-minded executives in Vancouver who had been intending to stake the Blue River property, but they were waiting for the spring thaw. But we got in, 4, 5, 6 months ahead of them and did stake it by hand in 1999. As well, and my introduction to the project was in 1999, and I put a little bit of money that I had into the seed financing round to allow the company to stake the property. So that goes back to 1999. Now, if you fast forward then to 2003, that was when we discovered the Upper Fur deposit. In 2000, 2001, we did some drilling on the two deposits that had the most data already, which were the Fur and the Verity. And those are two different deposits separated by about 10 kilometers away. But in 2003, I believe it was, in an exploration program, we found the Upper Fur deposit. And then finally in 2005, we drilled the Upper Fur. And then really at that point, there was no turning back. All of the company's focus has been on the Upper Fur since 2005.
Okay, okay. That's good. Now, I was thinking a little bit, so back in 1999, this was in the midst of the dot-com, the bull market on the stock exchange and all the hype and all that. What about the price of the property? Was that, since I take it that everyone already by that point knew that this specific mineral was going to be used within this, for IT companies within computers and so forth. Did that have any, particular bearings on the price of this property?
Well, no, not really. I mean, it only had a bearing on the fact that, we were not necessarily alone. We were not unique in thinking that the Blue River property was attractive. And that was the reason for my little story to say that we were lucky enough to have the capital to stake it in December or January 2009 or 1999 or the year 2000. Whereas the other companies in Vancouver were waiting for the thaw. So it didn't really affect the price of the claims or anything like that. The property was of interest to several other companies, but basically we beat them to the punch.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
And
after this property was bought, how long did it then take before you assembled a team to get start working on it?
Oh, essentially we started working on it right away. I mean to say, when we staked it, we also did some other things there, but it was covered in snow at that point. So we did our first program in the summer of the year 2000. So we would have done our first exploration program and our first drilling program in the summer of 2000.
Okay. And I was actually looking at the presentation from April on your site, and as to move forward a little bit, since let me see now, just to get this straight, since the last financing was done in last year, right?
Yes, September 2009.
Yeah, and the one that I participated in was back in 2007. And does this mean that before you are planning to go live, do you think that there will be more financings before that time?
Oh, absolutely. And the capital expenditure for the project right now is estimated to be about $250 million. And so relatively low. And I can tell you that I have presented the company to 3 of the major Canadian banks, and I would imagine that you and your subscribers and the rest of the world know that the Canadian banks are in extremely good shape with the legislation that prevents them from going ever into debt. They always have to keep a base of capital. So I have presented the company to BMO, Nesbitt Burns, CCE.V, and Royal Bank of Canada. And all of those investment banking divisions are interested in the preliminary economic assessment, and I will take it over to show them when it is done. And they are also, I would say, potentially interested in participating in the construction financing for the project. Now, what I wanted to say is that me and my associate Kevin Bottomley did the presentation at BMO, 3 or 4 months ago, and we went in and they had their wall of financings they had done. And I was looking at their little plaques, and they've completed a financing for, Agnico Eagle or something like that. And there's probably 50 plaques on the wall, and I'm looking at it, and I see one, and I say, oh, $37,000. Why would you have a plaque for a $37,000 financing? And I realized, oh, it's $37 million. And then I looked at the wall, and it's like 37 million, 800 million, 1.2 billion, 1.6 billion. And so then when we did the presentation, the investment banker came in, and he asked the same question you said, what's the capex for the project? And I said, well, about 250 million. And he goes, oh, Oh, I'm so relieved to hear that. You know, there's so many stories on the street in Vancouver right now. You know, low-grade copper, gold, porphyries, and their capex is $1 billion. It's so good to have a project that is